Uh-oh. Uh-oh, it's live.
Oh, whenever you say "uh-oh," we haven't done this thing in a year and a half, and I automatically assume something's fucked up.
I don't know what to do. I want to do that Road Dog Jesse James. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all, you know what I'm talking about? Road Dog Jesse James and Badass Billy Gunn
Nope.
from WWF. Hey guys, we're back. It's been a long 10 months, but the Banter Podcast is back. We're looking at you right now. It's great to be back. I'm Tim, and as always, I am joined by my lovely co-host, Mr. Kevin Bradley.
Hey man, how's it going?
It's going. It is going. I'm excited to be back. It's a bit overwhelming to be back. No. It's great. It's been, like I said, it's been 10 months. We've missed you guys. Hopefully the feeling is somewhat mutual at least, and that you missed our ramblings. And we're coming back to giving back to you. It's we've had a lot happen in the past 10 months. I don't think we're going to rehash everything that's going on, but there's a lot of stuff that's been going on recently that Kevin and I have been either partaking in or taking in, as far as news-wise, and talking about and enjoying and all that stuff. And going to get into what we've been watching, where did our money go, what we've been reading, not reading, and playing. It's mainly one thing, playing, but let's go ahead and I guess get into it. I guess enough with the formalities, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, like you said, it's been almost a year, and it's not like we don't talk every day anyway, but it's been hard to schedule the time to actually get a slot to sit down. So hopefully we can make it more regular. It seems like the only thing we do regularly talk about now is gout and joint pains outside of the podcast.
Yeah, that's true. We've both been we are respectively 20, 26 and almost 27 and 28-year-old men.
Not nearly old enough to be talking about things like that.
No.
Hence having to get the podcast back going when we talked about the things that we do outside of that.
Yeah, old men, not year old men. Old men. Yeah, it's been a long year between hospitalizations and inflamed joints.
Yeah,
not the good kind, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. And I had to get a new studio, so now that I'm in here and all moved in, it's crazy how much stuff's happened in the past.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Kevin, he and Amber bought a house back in July. Is that right? No, May.
We closed in March.
March. Was it really that long ago?
Yeah.
God, it has been long.
It's been it was before you even moved to where you're at now too. I don't think you've recorded there.
No, I don't think I have recorded here. That's kind of crazy. No, well, yeah, I guess so. Because I moved in here back in November of last year. So we haven't recorded since October of 2014. So it has been a long time.
Yeah.
It's good though. So I see you got your 4 shelves on display. Well, 3.5 shelves, I guess.
Yeah.
Got all your sweet ass, even though I want to destroy all the Beast Wars toys that are up there because Beast Wars is blasphemous. I guess
it's so funny. The electricians, whenever they were here doing some work the other week, one of the guys is in here looking at something. He goes, "Are those Beast Wars toys?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh my god, my son would fall apart if he saw that."
That's a shame. Kevin, that's the bad part, is that you're probably talking about like a 5 or 6-year-old kid.
Oh, well.
It's one thing when it's timeless.
There's no way. He can't be 5 or 6. Like, Beast Wars wasn't on TV. Like, he would have no frame of reference for it. And surely that's not still coming on.
I would hope not. For everyone's sake, I would hope.
Whatever, man.
Beast Wars has been discontinued. Yeah. It's definitely the bastard child of Transformers. It was like Reboot and Transformers had a really, really unfortunate looking illegitimate child.
Michael Bay Transformers or Beast Wars?
I'd take Michael Bay.
No, anything. No.
I have not watched this TMNT, I will say, but as a kid at heart.
Which Michael Bay Transformers? Dark Side of the Moon or First?
Okay, Pink Floyd. It's Dark of the Moon.
Oh, is it Dark of the Moon? Whatever.
So yeah,
why is it called Dark of the Moon? That makes no sense.
I don't know, but I didn't like the second one. It was really hard to get.
That was Dark of the Moon, right?
Right. Yeah. Third one was. It was okay. It was entertaining. Second one. I don't think I ever saw the second one. Second one was probably the only Michael Bay movie that didn't like just straight up entertain me. That's the thing. He makes movies for people like me.
What's not entertaining about Beast Wars?
Just I don't know. Dinobots in the fourth Transformers were way cooler than Beast Wars. Way fucking cooler than Beast Wars.
I never saw that, to be honest.
It gets 1.5 stars on Netflix, and that's kind of hard to do. You have to be friends to get that.
Oh God! Speaking of Netflix, I've been binge watching Mr. Robot this past week. Good God, you want to fucking freak out and be paranoid at everything you do online? Watch that show.
Is that on Netflix already?
No, it's on demand. I just thought about it because, I mean, I've been watching. They've at least got all 7 episodes that they've done so far online, so or on demand rather. So, yeah, I think I'm on episode 5 or something like that. Definitely recommend it.
Is it white collar good or is it like legitimate good? Is it like
it's legitimate good? Parts of me think that there's some Fight Club sort of things going on or plot lines running, which hopefully you'll get on board with it and we can talk about it on the show. JP's the one who turned me onto it because they've been watching it on demand. I had heard about it, but I didn't know that they had kept all the episodes on demand, so I've been able to catch all of them. Awesome. So, because most of the time they don't do that. Like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia didn't do that, which was really disappointing this past season. So
yeah, so I that's probably one of those things. They have that FX Now app that's on like Hulu and all the VOD.
All those FX channels now to begin with. As soon as FXX
it's kind of crazy.
It just threw everything off.
Right, because I may or may not use my parents' subscription to watch FX Now, and the issue with it is they don't get FXX or FXM, so pretty much everything on there is kind of null and void that I want to watch, because I tried to watch the last season of The League, and yeah, they didn't have the subscription for it, so I ended up. Well, I don't remember how I ended up watching that. Maybe I watched it on Netflix. I think it's on Netflix. Either way, but that's probably one of the reasons. It's kind of crazy that cable is kind of going by the wayside. I think even. You see that with the VOD stuff, like with FX Now, if you had those channels, that you would have access to more backlog content than if you watch it on the on-demand channel that you have the cable through. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Right. Yeah, the on-demand through the cable's got to step up their licensing, I guess. I feel like that's the only way that cable networks can compete, is if, the Comcast Xfinity app or the AT&T Uverse app actually have more of a backlog, because that's where, if you think about it, that's really where Netflix and Amazon Prime and subscription HBO Now or Go or whatever is really picking up the slack. I don't think they'd get anything over HBO because it's such a huge network, but at least for FX, AMC, stuff like that, on demand should have substantially, like those cable networks should have the wherewithal to go after shows and have more content than a third-party provider, essentially.
Yeah, you would think so anyway. And FX Now is interesting. I've actually been – I got to go look at that because I think my 30-day free trial just ran out with the True Detective finale. But I got it to watch True Detective once it got to so it came out, I believe, like 3 months ago, Apple TV and – Optimum Cable, some cable I've never heard of, some cable provider, some local cable provider, were like the only two that had access to it, to the HBO Now app. And then back in, I think in the beginning of July, it got released on the Android and on the Amazon Fire Stick and a couple other things. And I got to say, I've been pretty disappointed with it thus far. I understand I've been doing like a free trial, but the only way for me to watch it, because I don't have Apple TV, I have a Chromecast. I can watch it that way. through my browser on my computer and stream it to my TV. But that's been, even with, good internet, it's been kind of a hassle. And then, so what I ended up doing for the past couple episodes is I'll just set up my laptop, plug in the HDMI cable to my TV, and then expand it. Well, the problem with that is, for some reason, even running like 60 meg down internet, it still doesn't stream in HD. And I don't know what the issue is with that. It's, having to watch that almost in, I don't know, 480p on a 65-inch TV is not the best viewing experience.
So HBO Now is essentially HBO Go but live, right? Like, it's there. Like, you can watch all live HBO programming. And
right.
stuff.
Yeah. It's like it's at 9:00 on Sunday. You're able to, as soon as True Detective starts, hit play.
So is that bundled with HBO Go, or is it a separate subscription?
No, now is a standalone service. HBO Go comes with certain cable providers.
Right, which is how we have it.
Right, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I'm a cord cutter, so to speak. So I try and, get what I can through, like Fox I can watch on my Xbox because it's, local channel or whatever. And then, so HBO Now, because of True Detective, I wanted to, try it out and, be able to watch that show week to week.
Right.
It hasn't been the best experience. It's kind of a new service. I don't know if anybody else is having that issue with the whole quality the quality issue, but it's kind of disappointing to see that quality. And then it's, I guess the same thing. Year and a half ago, whenever True Detective first season finale hit, it broke HBO Go. And so even watching the finale for season 2 at, I don't know when I got home, like 11:30, something like that on Sunday, it was still laggy as all hell. So people were still watching, it. They must have been watching at high volume, but it was kind of, HBO Now has got a lot of work. I think it's got a lot of kinks to work out, which is crazy because you think it would just be a replica of HBO Go and then they would just rebrand it or whatever. But anyway.
So what did you think? I mean, you briefly mentioned it, but that's something else that I know that we've both been watching. True Detective, what did you think of the finale? What did you think about the second season as a whole?
I will say it, and I think I've said it to you before. You can probably hear my dog drinking water in the background. He's a loud drinker. So I've said it to you, I think, and I've said it a couple times. I think as a whole, and it might just because of the viewing experience. I enjoyed season 2 more than season 1. And I know I'm probably in the minority on that because season 1 is incredible, but at the same time, I found myself more wrapped up in season 2. And I think, and I talked to you about it, it's probably has a lot to do with the fact that I watched the first season in a weekend as opposed to this season. I got really involved in watching week to week and then getting sucked into rabbit holes and putting on tinfoil hats in the subreddit and, trying to get involved and all the stuff that I didn't get involved in the last time I went through.
Right.
And I think it produced, despite, the majority of critics who seem to have, given it like a C+, even with the strong last few episodes that they thought, it's still, to me, I thought it was an incredible, season of television. How about you?
So I'm on the other side of the fence. I definitely think you're in the minority, but again, I think it's at least broken down into a logical standpoint in that the week to week makes a huge difference. So we watched the first season week to week. So we went through all that. And I think this show, no matter what, I feel like second season. So first season really benefited from watching week to week. That build up, just the dialogue and how dense everything was, and the way the first season was written lent itself more to a week to week experience. And so all that stuff was built up. You had time to digest it. I think the second season for me, if you're going to watch it, is probably better suited for a binge watching. I understand that sort of build up and the sort of tinfoil hat wormhole that you can go into reading into episode to episode for season 2. I don't think that was nearly as strong or as compelling for me personally than it was in season 1. And for that reason, I think I enjoyed season 2. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as season 1, but that was my biggest complaint with season 2 was when I tried to compare it to season 1. And I think that's what everyone, it's hard not to do that. You do that with any sort of miniseries, but, or movie. I mean, that's weird. Like, you don't really do that for an ongoing season that's continuous necessarily. Like, you hardly ever have the debate of was season 2 better than the season 1. Like, nobody ever talks about that for Modern Family or The Office or something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, season 2 of The Office is way better than season 3.
I mean, and maybe I'm comparing two different things because that's not really a drama, but even still, I mean, Breaking Bad, I think, is a good example of that. I mean, there's clearly better episodes, but you didn't see as many people comparing seasons as they are with something like True Detective, where you kind of have to because of the way the show is scripted, the way it's written. I mean, they're two separate things entirely, so you really are kind of comparing movies. But aside from the title and the prejudice coming out, the predisposition coming out liking season 1 so much, I really enjoyed season 2. I thought that the characters were good. I wasn't crazy about Tim. I can never think
Tim Riggins.
I just want to call him Tim Riggins.
You mean God Warrior? He, as on the internet, he is known as God Warrior.
What's his name? Tilly? Is it something Tilly or what is it?
Taylor Kitsch.
Taylor Kitsch. Why did I have Tilly?
His name is John Carter, and he's from Mars.
That's it.
He's also
his character was the weakest, but my two favorite characters in the season, one of which was out of the blue. Like, I did not expect to like Vince Vaughn's character nearly as much as I did, or enjoy his dialogue throughout the season. And Colin Farrell was really, I mean, I didn't have an opinion one way or the other going into it. I definitely was skeptical of Vince Vaughn, but those two characters were the most compelling to me personally. What did you think?
You know, I think I've gone on record. I think Frank Semyon, Vince Vaughn's character, might be my favorite television character that I've ever seen. I just think the job that he did was phenomenal. A lot of people thought that he was doing a poor job at first, but then you come to realize, you know, I don't want to, you know, it's not going to spoil much, but I mean, he's a mobster pretty much. And I think what people came to realize after a couple episodes is that essentially his kind of quote unquote clunky dialogue and kind of obscure or kind of strange things he was saying were mainly because he was trying to go straight, and his character wasn't really fitting in. He was trying to fit into to a place he didn't belong. I think Vince Vaughn kind of captured that well, despite, you know, a lot of stuff that I've seen. And I don't think I've ever rooted for a quote unquote bad guy as much as I did for him. Like Walter White, towards the end, I just, you know, Walter White was a sympathetic figure for a couple seasons, and then you start to realize, like, he's kind of inherently evil. Yeah, he kind of is just an absolute narcissist. And where you have the flip side, you got Frank, who is kind of that old school mobster, you know, treat your woman right, be kind of respectful, but at the same time, you're dealing with kind of shitty things, and you're, you know, doing shitty things to people. But, you know, that whole fist fight, that shows how old school.
But at the same, I think that was my least favorite part of the season. I'm glad that you mentioned the fist fight. I don't think that's a spoiler either, but in one episode, there's a fist fight with Vince Vaughn's character, and I think that was his weakest performance because I couldn't see him being that sort of physical type. You know, you don't see him, like, all the gunplay and stuff like that, and the dialogue and everything else with his character, totally believable. But seeing Vince Vaughn get in a fist fight after everything else, I just couldn't, for some reason, I couldn't buy into that.
And that was one of the highlights. So for me, I thought my favorite part of that scene was that there's still kind of honor among thieves, so to speak, in that circle. It's like, you know, in a lot of, you would think in kind of a crime world, for the most part, especially nowadays, somebody like that guy would have just pulled a gun and shot him.
Right.
But like you think back to like old days, like fist fights, and I don't know, but you got like 6'5" Vince Vaughn with a really long reach fighting against that guy, and I don't know. I loved it. And kind of him just asserting his dominance and being like, I'm back. You better, you know, get your shit in line. But I thought for 8 episodes, you know, kind of like 8.5, because the last episode was 90 minutes. But I thought that they did a great job with a lot of the characters and developing them. And I thought that, like you said, Colin Farrell is a top 5, top 10 actor in Hollywood in terms of talent. I mean, if you watch In Bruges, Seven Psychopaths, yeah, especially Daredevil. Actually, so the first 2 movies that I mentioned, maybe it's just whenever Martin McDonagh is directing and writing for him, but he was, despite that long drawl that he had, Bezzarides, I thought he was amazing. I thought he played that character really well. And even to Rachel McAdams, I thought she played that role well. But I think he casted everyone really well. So I think the consensus, I think you kind of pointed at something, that there were a lot of preconceived notions coming into this season, like with so Cary Fukunaga, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. He directed the entire first season. And Nick Pizzolatto, whatever, he wrote the first season and second season. So Fukunaga and Pizza Latte, as everybody calls him on the internet, they kind of, I guess they had a dust up, butted heads, whatever, and there was pretty much a different director for every episode of the second season. So I think when people realized that Fukunaga wasn't going to be directing every episode, they were already like, oh, this is going to be shit, because he's, kind of a mythological character at this point, I guess, because of that 6-minute tracking scene that he directed of, the biker shootout and the projects in the first season. And I think people already were holding that against holding that against this season. And then, like you said, comparing the two, because you're right, in an anthology series, you kind of look at them and compare what they were able to do better, because you have American or Southern Gothic in the first season, and then you have kind of LA Noir in the second season. So it's, what is he better at doing? What's more interesting? I guess it depends. The latter part probably depends more on your interests. I think both are extremely interesting. You had the first season, I think, drew more, like you said, kind of that. I think there was more to speculate on because of the whole occult and the whole corruption ritual, like satanic, whatever, the cults and everything. And you're right. You probably would benefit more watching the first season week to week, because there was so much, like, even to the point of almost supernatural stuff going on to think about. And then,
right. And well, that was the thing that drove me crazy about the second season, though, is that it wanted to be both. I think, like, it opened up the season opener. The main sort of case that starts the entire second season harken back to everything from the first season. This, like, sort of supernatural, like, really crazy crime scene, and that sets the tone for the entire season. And I think that's another thing that was at odds with this season was it was trying to be both. Like, I completely I completely agree that the LA Noir, the detective, the actual people, the character development side of it, I enjoyed that part of it in the second season. But it was whenever it was trying to be this sort of creepy, dirty show that, like the first season was, that I don't think it succeeded very well, and those parts fell a little flat for me. And that's ultimately what left me disappointed in the season finale. Sorry.
Yeah. So and I think you have a good point, because you're right, because and I don't think it's much to give away, because the entire season's based on Casper's death, and you see his death and you see his body and you see how ritualistic it seems and how, like, almost cult-like it seems. And immediately speculation started growing on the internet that it was Bohemian Grove, which I could talk about that for a while, and you guys can go listen to another podcast called Sword and Scale that has a good 2-part episode on it. Essentially, this like lodge up in upstate or Northern California, where all the most powerful people get together and they do ritualistic sacrifices and orgies.
I know what you're talking about now. I remember that now. Like, there's a lot of owl iconography and stuff.
Yes, exactly.
And like Nixon and Reagan or something like that.
Reagan and George W. Bush or George H.W. Bush.
Yeah.
Being given little boys to. So that I think a lot of people got that in their mind that it was going to head that way, because you're right, because of the whole owl symbolism. You see Annie's dad at the Panacopeum Institute, and there's owls everywhere, and you have all this other stuff, and everybody's. But I think that he maybe made a mistake in that, but he was also kind of. I think that's still there. I don't think that that's necessarily not what's going on, but you don't.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, but I think he used that kind of as the carrot to dangle in front of you, because the dude's middle name might as well be Red Herring, right? Because there's so much that he puts into the seasons or into the writing that is supposed to throw you off, but also make you think about other stuff. And I can't tell you how many crackpot theories you and I went back,
But that's, again, yeah, like you said, he does put in a significant amount of that into the course of the season. However, the conclusion, I felt like in season 2 was just far too simple. That was my biggest issue. At the same time, like, I have issues with season 2. I've already said I enjoyed season 2, but I think that it had some glaring issues for me. That said, I think that Vince Vaughn, Frank Simeon's character, had the best finale out of all all 6 main characters, we'll say, out of 2 seasons of True Detective, because there's the 3 main detectives in season 2. There's Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey in season 1, and then Vince Vaughn's character. And I think Vince Vaughn's character in season 2 had the best sort of role in a finale out of the 2 seasons. I will give it that much, at least. Like his ending, I guess, in the season, if you want to call it that, was probably the most enjoyable for me.
Yeah. I think it took me about a day to really realize how I felt about it, because I watched that episode late on Sunday. I want to watch it again, but I didn't know it ended, and there's so much happened. He wrapped, not to give anything away, but he, a lot of stuff wrapped up as it should in the finale, But the more I think about it, I start to think about those characters, and did he do them justice? Did he write them the way that, given in the first 7 episodes, that they should have ended? And I think that for the most part, those characters stayed true to who they were in the end. And I think that.
So that goes back to what our favorite thing, he played within the rules that he said.
Right, exactly. So
I can get on board with that.
Yeah, so you write a character for so long, and then you can't flip it on its head, and then somebody turns into Rambo, and then they save the world, and that's
right.
Yeah, and I think that there's probably enough to warrant a 3rd season. Hopefully, I think the HBO exec already came out and said that I
think so too. I think I would just rather. I don't know if I'm crazy about the writing necessarily. I think you're right, though. I think the character development and stuff was fine. I didn't see anything wrong with the directing in the 2nd season at all. There was just, it was, like I said, I think my biggest issue is that it was trying to do too much. And I can also see your point, where the sort of spiritual aspect of it, or this, how did you describe it? Supernatural, or,
kind of ritualistic, cult-like.
Yeah, I can see how that was sort of the carrot on the hook to get you on board with everything else. But it was that everything else that was also a point of contention with me, was that the everything else, the LA Noir or whatever, was so convoluted and so packed with different things that they didn't focus in on any one thing. And there were a lot of loose ends, I thought, at the end with different characters, that things were mentioned or hinted at. And I understand that as the writers of the show, and I think he even did a interview with some Newsweek or something like that about the TV show, about how they write a backstory for all of the characters, and some of that stuff gets thrown into the dialogue. Well, that's my issue, is that it didn't seem like they were very choosy of what they threw into the dialogue. And with a show that people are hanging on every word, and you have characters say certain things or reference certain things that happened in their past, and you don't address that in any way, that left a bad taste in my mouth for some of the characters.
Yeah, but that's one thing I thought,
as well as some of the story arcs.
Yeah, and I think that he did a great job on the flip side of that, at being able to actually fit all that in, kind of in like a classy way for Frank, like that.
Right.
Yeah. So like you said, that was one of the better, more fitting endings for a character, probably.
But what does that say about season 2? Whenever one character, I mean, I'll argue Ray, Colin Farrell's character, maybe Rachel McAdams. Even then, I'm not so crazy about it. One critical part of it, which we can talk about in a couple months once everybody's seen it. But but what does that say that really just one character out of the 4 main characters that they have in season 2 had sort of a fitting ending? That because I mean, what did you think about the ending for Colin Farrell's character for Ray?
It goes back to what I was just saying. I think I thought about it, and I talked to my brother about it, and he said, I don't understand why he did that, why they went about that way. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, that he's such a conflicted and in a way, because he, redeeming qualities, tragic hero, that I just think he fell back on, tendencies. I don't know. It was kind of hard to swallow, to be honest. Yeah. It was, but then you think about it, it didn't leave as bad of a taste in my mouth as it did, whenever I first saw it. But
right. So again, but what about endings for Rachel McAdams and
Jordan's and Tim Riggins? Oh, Tim Riggins.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, I wasn't really left satisfied. I mean, it happened, but there was a lot of things that I wanted to see out of both of those characters that never happened. And part of Rachel McAdams' character, you can blame on the fact that it's just the way that character was written, and that's the personality. You can say that for why you don't know more of the things that you'd like to know about her character in the show. But at the same time, I think that's a bad excuse for why to not have some of those things. I don't know. I definitely enjoyed it though. But that said, I'm also enjoying Mr. Robot. So if you get a chance to check that out, I definitely recommend that.
Yeah. So I've got
turned me onto it was an article that I saw that I think JP sent me as well. That said something about stop wasting your time with True Detective season 2 and go watch Mr. Robot instead or something like that.
Yeah, dude, there is an unreal amount of hate from the critics for True Detective 2. So I guess that's where I'll leave it. And
I think again it was destined to fail. I think it was destined to fail. And which brings me to my next point of another game destined, wink wink, to fail to fail in most people's minds, which was Destiny, which hadn't even come out yet as the last time we recorded. Like, I think we recorded for the beta and maybe talked about that, but the game's been out for a year. I've put 420 something hours into this damn game, and we haven't even talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah, I feel like maybe we talked about whenever it first came out, because it came out in September, I think. So we talked about it for a little bit whenever we first started playing.
But I don't think, so did we have any episodes before that? Because the last episode I saw was like 340 something days ago. I really don't think we recorded once it came out.
Yeah.
I think we talked about the beta, but the actual game, I don't know if it had come out yet.
Yeah. So so how do we even talk about this? Because I just got back into it, I'd say probably 2-3 months ago. We had played, both of us, well, you didn't stop playing religiously, but I played religiously with you for the first couple months that it came out. And then for whatever reason, I don't remember if something came out or something, but, kind of just tailed off before the first expansion came out. And then, like I said, you didn't stop playing religiously. And then we had a brief stint where we played Mortal Kombat pretty much.
Yeah.
Every waking free moment, we played Mortal Kombat for a couple weeks, a month. I still take my Aaron Black over your Ermac.
Fair enough.
Because of drop kicks. So Destiny has been, I think, I'm kind of conflicted. And I was actually talking to somebody about this today. So I'm kind of on board with a lot of people's disappointments whenever it first came out, that it was kind of an unfinished game that they put out for $60. And that's completely justified. But I think they've kind of righted the ship with those expansions, even though those expansions were already built into the first disc and just unleashed with like a 5 kilobyte update. And then the Taken King that's coming out, mean, you're talking about $80 in expansions, but the replay value obviously is there because I'm back in it and I'm playing more than I ever did before. And, you and I have been playing, every weekend. And I keep finding more content that I'm enjoying. And even it's the Diablo effect because you can essentially, I do the same thing over and like I'll go and get the bounties every day and I'll go and do the bounties. And, for the most part, a lot of them are kind of the same thing, but a lot of it has to do with the kind of community aspect. And the great thing about it to me is that there is also it's multifaceted, and a lot of games don't give you that. You can either jump in for a minute, like say Black Ops, where you can kind of play casually. I mean, you can play hardcore too, but it's, it's just PvP. But then you have, Destiny, you have the PvP portion, which you can pop in and out of, the PvE stuff, which you can pop in and out of, or both that you can kind of play hardcore, like with Trials. You have to, if you're going to get a Trials pass, you got to sit in, you got to be ready for a couple hours, at least have multiplayer. And then same with raids. Raids to me, I mean, that's fun as hell that you have, content like that in a first person shooter. And, there's so much we could talk about, and I've rambled, but I've, certainly enjoyed it. And I'm willing and, excited to pay the $40 for the Taken King when it comes out.
Yeah. So you touched on a couple things. I think somebody said it today on another podcast I was listening to about year one of Destiny, as we're coming up on year two. Taken King is September, was it 14th or something like that?
It's the 15th.
15th. That Destiny year one was the longest running beta for a video game. That year one was an early access. Like, I mean, really, it took all of year one, and I think that you timed it well in that you came back right as House of Wolves, which was their second expansion, was coming out. So you had some of the end game stuff from vanilla Destiny to finish up. Then you had this expansion. Then you got the Dark Below, which was this other expansion. Meanwhile, taking on all the advantages that had developed over time that you didn't have to worry about so much, like the economy getting fixed and the raids getting patched and weapon balancing and vault space and the app functionality, like all of these things over the course of the first year that's been woven into the game to make it a better experience, and the experience that ultimately I think gamers wanted to begin with, and as a result of their feedback is what they now have. That said, I think I would pay $100 all told for the two expansions and the $60 basic game 2 or 3 times over for the amount that I've actually played the game, because like you said, there's so much content in it, and that carrot at the end of the stick over the course of 3 characters keeps me coming back. That, along with the community, like you said, it really has every aspect to gaming that I'm looking for, and that I can pop in for a raid with 6 different people, and people that, I mean, I've made a lot of friends playing Destiny, just online gaming, that I play with regularly now. I mean, you and I have played with some guys that I've played with in Trials a few times, and actually just got your first Flawless ticket last weekend. And I've gotten I've gotten 3 now, and it's all just people that I randomly picked up through the forums that now I play with regularly, which is kind of foreign. Like, I didn't expect that to happen. And that was the thing that's been kind of bittersweet about Destiny, in that what was a real frustration, and to some extent it's still a frustration, that there's not matchmaking in the game for things like raids and trials and stuff like that. I've gone about matchmaking through the forums and stuff like that online and found people to play with, and I have a good relationship with them now. I don't see that taking place through matchmaking necessarily. So that's been the one weird thing that I've gone back and forth about over the first year. But Taken King, man, like I said, all those things that have taken place in the first year, they're about to tack on, it seems like, a whole year worth of updates into this one expansion, and I couldn't be more excited about that.
Yeah. I think what you were just talking about, the whole, like, the community aspect is, you're right. So you had to circumvent the whole lack of matchmaking, lack of in the fire team chat that nobody's ever in. And and gain friends that way. And you're right. We have, I mean, in 2 weeks, picked up 2 guys that I see us playing with for a long time. So,
Right.
yeah, Taken King. So what are we're talking? I want to say I saw 13 missions, 3 strikes, and I don't think there's a raid, is there?
Yes, there is definitely a raid.
Well, for Oryx, right? I guess that would
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah.
There's
So
one for Oryx.
there's definitely a raid. So to geek out a little bit, I've made some cliff notes of things that I know are coming in the expansion. Level cap is going up to level 40 now. It's being converted to an EXP or XP based level system instead of armor based. So your XP leveling, instead of just leveling up for another mode of light, you actually level up to the next level. I think all of your characters will start out, and that goes all the way through. And there was some discussion about, well, does that mean that my level 34 characters are going to get dropped down to level 20 whenever it comes out? No, whatever level they're at whenever Taken King comes out is whatever level they'll be. They'll have that XP already factored into them.
Make sure that day that you gear all of your guys up.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't
well, no, they said
up.
that it's whatever max level that character has been to. So if it's been to
Gotcha.
34, but then you take all its armor down to 20, it's still going to be a level 34. So,
Gotcha.
but yeah, so there's the XP level, and then there's your light level, which is all based off of your armor and stuff like that, and that'll really matter, in Iron Banner and Trials and stuff like that. The ascending weapons and stuff is gone, which has been a point of contention for people like wanting to carry over the weapons. So for those who may not be familiar with Destiny, we're just talking about the leveling up of your armor and weapons in the game. As each expansion has come out, you've been able to carry over the weapons that you had previously and level them up to the new max level to do the max level missions and stuff like that. With the Taken King, you cannot do that with any of your weapons. I think you may be able to do it with exotics. I think there may have been some talk about it, but I don't even think so because, I don't think that's taking place. I think all weapons stay at whatever their max is at as they go into Taken King. So,
what are your thoughts on that?
I was irritated at first, but at the same time, I'd be really pissed if I went into this 10-year plan that they say that they have for Destiny. If 10 years later, I'm still using my Fatebringer and Galahorn, and they haven't come up with a better weapon since. It's frustrating, but they need to do that because otherwise people aren't going to give them a chance to show them that they can make better weapons and make things that are going to be just as enjoyable to play with. So to that aspect, I'm actually looking forward to it, and I'm just sort of crossing my fingers that they actually deliver on that, because that's the second part of that, right? Like, I'm on board with it. I'm on board with a system that's going to do that, to leave those weapons behind, but they have to actually show up with weapons that I actually enjoy playing with and that do something. It doesn't have to be comparable. It can be a completely different weapon, but something that's just as enjoyable to play with is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think, well, the problem, to go back to playing within your own rules, I think it's great that they're not forcing, so I guess, but new content brings higher level content, and that higher level content should be by most accounts and every MMO that you play. And by all accounts, I think, it's Destiny is an MMO, and most of those games, whenever you play an expansion, usually that gear is way better than anything you can get prior.
Right.
So, but at the same time, I think that's great that they're doing it. I enjoy that, but it also kind of harkens back to the whole level balancing with PvE, which you don't really see in any other MMO. And it's kind of irritating sometimes that I could be doing, let's see, what were we doing? I was actually playing with Amber the other night, and we were messing around just doing, I want to say, patrol missions on Earth or something like that. And then, so a bunch of these level 7 like ultras came out, and they're not hard. And then what is his name? Arzak, the crazy hard knight that comes down, and then everything becomes fucking like pretty much level 34.
Right.
And it's frustrating that to an extent, like, I should be able to one-shot them for the most part. Like, I should, but that's kind of.
But at the same time, I think their standpoint is, if you could one-shot everything, there'd be no incentive to do anything. And you have to go through those areas in those other missions. So
yeah, that's true.
At least with them having some sort of a damage cap on enemy types, it keeps you interested in at least doing something.
But that's what the other level difficulties are for, right? I mean, if I play a level 32 difficulty on, or a level 30 difficulty on like a weekly heroic mission, I shouldn't have like the enemies around me going to the, what is it? The dark, what is the dark area called? Whenever you get there and no respawn, what is it?
Oh, fuck, I don't remember what it's called. I know.
Yeah, whatever. Whenever you get to the actual part where you're facing those level 30 mobs, you shouldn't be having to go through, like, say on Venus, going through
Darkness
the whatever the universe. Yeah, right, the darkness zone. You shouldn't, like in the university or whatever, and on Venus, you shouldn't have to be going through like 30 level 7 Vex. Like those should all be your level or the level that you're playing at. But I mean, I think that's just nitpicking at that point,
but it's also because it's a living world. That's the other
right. That's true. Yeah, because
if that was the case, then if you were starting a new character, you'd have no chance against anything out in the world, and that goes against that community aspect that they're trying to weave in. Where if you're a level 2, you'll see level 34s coming by all the time, and sometimes it really helps whenever you're going into that public event or against Urzok if you've got a 34 come up and help you out if you're level 3 or 4, and then you benefit from that. And so it's just, again, this community aspect of it. So I can see both sides of that.
It doesn't really affect me too much. I mean,
no.
And honestly, it's kind of a cheap way to do a lot of the bounties that they have.
Right. So I think my biggest issue with Destiny in year 1, and obviously it's not that big of an issue because I'm still playing it, but it's a very valid issue about the lack of in-game story content in the game. And I've always been a big proponent of the Grimoire cards that nobody goes and looks at. I get that it's a hassle. I get that the story should be in the actual campaign. But again, Bungie's responded to that by implementing something in the Taken King where if you actually pull out your ghost in the environment, you get details about those things in the environment. So if you're like on the moon down in Hellmouth and you see a gate or something like that, or you kill a gatekeeper, you pull out your ghost to scan it, it's basically like it pulls up the grimoire on the screen essentially, and you get some more information about stuff like that. So
I think that's good too.
They're also adding a bunch of cinematics. They actually got Nolan North, the guy that did Drake from Uncharted. He's the new voice of your ghost, and they actually went back and redubbed everything that Peter Dinklage did, so it's consistent across the Taken King and Vanilla Destiny and all expansions. So that's kind of interesting, I thought.
Yeah, that is good. I think Nathan Fillion's in it too, and then
he's been in that. He's Cade Six.
Yeah, that's true.
They're actually weaving in those NPCs. Yeah, they're actually weaving in those NPCs into the actual story, which I think is going to help out a lot. The other neat thing that they're implementing, well, there's a couple more. Another one I had on my list, which could be great or humiliating, is a mercy rule in Crucible. So if you're up by a certain amount, the match will end. So it's great if you're winning by 10,000 and you don't have to keep waiting for the game to be over whenever you know you're going to win. But at the same time, it's kind of fun humiliating those people. Yeah. But at the same time, if you're on the losing end, you don't have to come in to a match. Because that's the other thing. You get put in these matches and you're already down by 7,000 or 8,000. It's like, fuck, I've got to wait for the game to be over before I get a reset. At least you don't have to wait as long, and it'll just go ahead and reset the lobby. So there's that, and then they're adding a new sort of inventory system with the shaders so that they're not a part of your inventory. They're just in a terminal, so that any shader that you have or have ever had is shared among all of your guardians, and it's in a terminal, and you don't have to keep them in your inventory. So if you have it once, you'll always have it. You go to that terminal, it shows you the ones that you have that you can equip and the ones that you don't have and how to get them. So I thought that was
so. Are they giving me the ability to combine the 6 Gilgamesh shaders that I have into one blood pact? That will be the 5th blood pact that I have, and then you can combine all those into
God of War.
Yep.
So no, it's an actual shader.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about
it's red and white.
I was gonna say because blood pact is red and white too. At least I think it is. So on the top, like you talk about all the stuff that they're adding, and you haven't even touched on a lot of the in-game, like kind of the mechanics. and the fact that they're adding a new subclass for every one of the Guardians.
Right. No, I'm just talking about more the patch items that are.
Yeah, the UI, the HUD fix.
Exactly.
For questing and for bounties and all that stuff. I think that is,
I forgot all about that.
To me, that's like almost top of the list for best improvements, because that is the clunkiest thing and one of my biggest issues with Destiny because of loading times, how long it takes to get to and from orbit to the tower. But so one thing, and I think we've been talking about Destiny for a while. We could probably talk about it all night, but the big point of contention, I think the single biggest point of contention is $40. That's for everybody on the internet. That's been the biggest thing for most people is this, you see so many headlines from so many different gaming publications, it's either why Destiny Taken King's worth $40. Is it worth $40? It's not worth $40. All that stuff. And then, my jaw kind of dropped whenever I first saw that. I was like, holy shit. Even like WoW expansions and EverQuest expansions aren't $40. At least last I checked anyway. So, but then you start to think about it. How much do you pay every year if you're a Call of Duty player, how much do you pay every year for the same game? You pay $20 more to play Advanced Warfighter, whatever it's called. What is it called? Advanced Warfare. So you pay for essentially the same bones with new skins, with new weapons, and a couple new game mechanics, maybe a couple improvements. Wait, what's the Taken King? So it's more skins, more improved game mechanics, almost as much content as the original game. I won't say, you have your couple strikes short, you have the same amount of raids, but but essentially you're adding at least half a game's worth of content in one expansion.
You're forgetting a key component to this, which is that whenever you factor in the things that Xbox One players are getting that PS4 players already have, it really is close to the amount of content in the base game, because you're picking up 3 new strike missions, I think. 2 or 3 new strike missions, rather. There's new weapons that PlayStation's had exclusive. Like, you're picking up all this extra content. I think there's a couple of Crucible maps too. All this extra content that wasn't in, that they're not getting, that they've already had, essentially. So that adds a little bit of value to Xbox One players, I think.
Even more reason to justify the $40 price point, because
we got the collector's edition, so which is another copy of the game and the expansions we've already bought. But
hey Neil, guess what? So yeah, I don't buy it every year. I buy it every other year now, but FIFA, I pay $60 every other year for every, I was paying $60 a year for what? New freaking rosters.
Right.
I think it's all relative in terms of, what you're willing to pay for, obviously, or what you're willing to pay, but what you're getting is substantially more than, for the most part, what you get from year to year in games, and you don't have to start all over again. You don't have to.
I agree.
You're building upon something that you're already enjoying. At least I assume if you're still playing it, you're enjoying it, and I think the biggest thing for me is that Bungie as a developer is listening to people. I think they realize that they kind of shitted people at the beginning, and they're like, all right, we got to make it up to them. We got to listen to them. We got to keep improving on the game. And I think that every step that they've made pretty much this far, and that's, the stuff that they're doing to nerf weapons. I think a lot of people are going to get upset about that because, I'm really good with Thorn, or I'm really good, I love my Gjallarhorn, whatever.
Right.
But you want to make, I think you and I talked about it, how fresh that's going to make the Crucible is. It's going to completely flip it on its head. It's going to kind of level out the playing field again for the most part.
Which is what was fun. That was what was fun about the last weapon patch, and what was fun about the start of the game is everybody was really figuring that stuff out and what was the best. And then they did a weapon rebalancing, and then it reset everything. And then now they're getting ready to do another one. I think that's what makes that game so fun. It's like those necessary rebalancing reinvents the wheel essentially for the PvP and the meta of the game. So
yeah, and I'm sure this isn't the last we're going to talk about this for the next, for the coming weeks, because we're still sitting We are, I guess, a month and 4 days away from it coming out, and then
it's going to be a busy holiday season for games. I mean, there's that. There's Black Ops 3. There's Fallout 4. There's Tomb Raider. There's Battlefront 3. There's fuck, man. I still haven't gotten Arkham Knight yet. I'm thinking I'm going to hold off on Tomb Raider and try to get Tomb Raider and Arkham Knight on Black Friday. I think that's a safe bet that I can get both of those. Oh, Rock Band. I mean, Rock Band.
Oh my God.
Rock Band and Fallout 4. Fallout 4 Collector's Edition's already been pre-ordered. Taken King's already been pre-ordered. We're definitely going to get Rock Band and Battlefront 3 and most likely Black Ops 3 as well. And by Christmas, we're going to need another Xbox.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty safe bet. For me, I think Tomb Raider, Black Ops 3, and Rock Band or Guitar Hero. I am really interested to see how shitty I'll be for a while with the new Guitar Hero controller. I don't know if you've seen it, the way that they stack buttons. So it's 3 buttons in 2 places. So the fretboard on screen has 3 rows, 3 rows. And it's, first, second, third, and it's in white or black. So white is the buttons on top, black is the buttons on bottom, or the other way around. So they're trying to, because that was, I think that's part of the what got them, they did the Tony Hawk, the Call of Duty, the Activision thing. That's the crazy thing about Destiny, is that you don't even think about the fact that Activision publishes it.
Oh, no, I do.
But
the Red Bull promos is proof enough.
Yeah, that's true. I don't have cable, so luckily I don't see that very often. But no, you just don't think about it. The fact that and thinking, man, shit, Activision publishes that. It's amazing they're not just putting out a new game this year, because that's what kind of killed Tony Hawk. That's what killed Guitar Hero. So it wasn't really fresh, and I think Guitar Hero wants to get back to kind of innovating. So I'll be fumbling all over myself. And do you have your Michelangelo behind you with the grappling hook?
No. No.
So quick story, Kevin and I, in a very, what I would assume, this is not going to be PC, but a lot of like the crazy rural Chinese parents that train their kids for Olympics from birth. What their training probably is somewhat like, in a very disciplinary way. No, that's very un-PC of me to say, but no. So Kevin had this Michelangelo that had a grappling hook on it, had a long tether string, and it was just a brick of a grappling hook sitting on the other end. You had a little bar at the side, and then on the other side there's a big, just like, it's like a mace. And so every time, I had gotten it for Christmas, and it was probably January or something before we were going back to school, and we were playing Guitar Hero for the first time together. And every time I'd miss a note, every time there's a bink bonk, I get whipped with that grappling hook on my back and on my arm.
You were so much better for it, though.
I made it to the Sumter GameStop final against Nate, who he should have been disqualified for sitting down playing and not even having the guitar strapped around him. He was playing more like later Eric Clapton. So yeah, that's we trained each other by whipping the shit out of each other with a Michelangelo grappling hook. So that's how you get good at stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Either that, or you just yell and make the person feel bad about being shitty at trials until they're good.
What? Who would do that? That was some pent-up shit you just let out. I didn't yell at you. I was just yelling because of you. There's a big difference. I wasn't yelling at you. You were just...
I'm yelling with you. Yeah. I don't hate you. I hate the things you do. Hey, but fuck it, because it worked. No, I'm just kidding. It's tough love sometimes, and then you make it to the lighthouse and you get disappointed by getting a scholar.
Look at how much better you are now.
Yeah, and then I get a fucking PvE weapon from it. I don't even get a messenger. I get a scholar.
But you got the emblem. That's all you really need.
Yeah,
and
I
the
rock
experience
that.
and the screen capture, which you better have done.
Shit. I don't know. Gonna have to do it again. Yeah. So that my money's where did my money go? It's all gonna be gone by the end of the year. I don't.
Oh, mine's already gone. I've been between games and then another familiar topic to the show is what we've been listening to. Fun fact: Circus Survive's Juturna album turns 10 this year, and they're doing an anniversary tour and repressing the album, and so we got tickets to see that in November. That's going to be awesome too.
Oh yeah.
And you just went to Wrecking Ball?
Yeah, I went and saw pretty much like my high school heroes for the most part. High school and college like hero bands play.
So how was it?
It was fantastic. So there was something I was already pissed about going in and whenever they released the schedule, because I essentially went for 3 bands. Clarissa got me a ticket for Sunday for my birthday because it was Thrice, Glassjaw, and Coheed, which all 3 of those bands I've loved for God knows how long.
Glassjaw, and I've said for months, there's no way they're going to overlap.
Yeah, right. So Glassjaw and Thrice overlapped, and everyone was pissed because – and I think the reason they did it was to spread it out so people weren't all coming at the same time, and that people weren't people stayed and listened to other bands. But everybody that we went to go, so Glassjaw played first. They were playing at like 5:40. So I went with this big crowd to go over there, and it was so packed. So Masquerade, which it's a shame it's getting torn down for some fucking condos. It, historic venue in Atlanta. It's kind of unique compared to anything that I've ever been to because it has 3 levels on the out or in the inside in like an old rickety building. And then on the outside, they have like this field where they have the music park. So they had 4 stages that they had bands playing in at all times. So we went into Heaven, which is the top portion, the biggest portion inside. And it was so fucking packed for Glassjaw that it was 1 in, 1 out. They were ushering people in and out of there. Wow. And by the time I got in there, and we got there before their set was even supposed to start, they were already halfway through their first song. But what sucks is 20 minutes into that, I was faced with the decision of, okay, I've seen Thrice before, but Thrice is one of my favorite bands I've ever, through, not just high school and college, but still now I listen to them, weekly. And, I've seen them once before. Do I skip out on Glassjaw and go see Thrice, which inevitably I did. But it kind of sucked because, everybody dealt with that. Even Dustin, the lead singer of Thrice, gets, he's like, he's just like, there are a bunch of great bands playing today. He's like, even Glassjaw, and, thank you guys for coming here instead of being in there because, they're like, it's fucking, because Glassjaw, despite the fact that they haven't really, released pretty much any new music except for I think like 1 EP over the past 13 years, almost 12 years, something like that. They have a huge cult following, and everybody, because they keep promising new music, like new LPs and stuff. And Daryl Palumbo is such a fantastic, he's great on stage. He has great voice, great stage presence, so unique as a musician, as a vocalist. That's the most packed I've ever seen the Masquerade. And the fact that I had to leave that to go catch Thrice, who put on an amazing show. Like, you kind of have contrasting. So I essentially saw 2 different kinds of performers and then kind of a hybrid of that. So Glassjaw, they're fantastic. Their music is not simple by any stretch, but it's not like it did to me. It's, I don't know. It sounds kind of shitty to say, but it doesn't sound as intricate as crazy as like Coheed stuff with stuff that Claudio plays or Teppy from Thrice plays. But their showmanship was fantastic. Their stage presence is awesome. And then you have Thrice, who's more or less technical. They're playing their stuff. They're so technical. And their guitarist, at least his name's Teppy, is the way he was tapping the solos and shit. I got a couple videos of that. It's just incredible. The accuracy and the technicality on display there. And then you have Coheed and you have Claudio and Travis, who are, that's his name, right? Travis?
The guitarist?
Yeah.
And Josh on drums is fucking sick.
Yeah. Josh is incredible. But the way that Claudio with the fucking hair and to be able to dance around the stage and be able to play as well as he does, and just a perfect combination of both of those other two bands
in the middle of summer in August, no less.
Yeah. So it was all fantastic. That's the main thing that kind of struck me is I had to wait essentially 2 hours between the end of Thrice and the beginning of Coheed because it was 7:10 to 9 o'clock, and in between that you had a band that I had never heard of. And I guess they have a big cult following too. Desaparecidos. It's the lead singer of Bright Eyes. I've never listened to Bright Eyes before.
Yeah.
So their lead singer, and he's in this band that was together like 10 years ago, and then they broke up and now they're back together, just put out another album, and they sounded good. And it was, well enough, but I've never heard of them before. And Thrice to me, and maybe that's just personally, but to me, that's a much bigger name to put in. I don't know why they weren't playing before Coheed, but I did get to see one other band that I can't stop listening to, and I wanted to kind of plug them a little bit. This band called Somos. Like I said, Masquerade has 3 levels inside. They have Purgatory, Hell, and Heaven. Well, Purgatory was for kind of the smaller bands, typically, and then you go inside, but it's like the artist lounge. So that like kind of the backstage VIP area was in Purgatory. So they had them outside playing underneath a tent, like to the left of the entrance. And they were over there and they had like a crowd of it kind of spoke volumes that they had people over there listening to them whenever there was another band in there, like a hardcore band that, I feel like they've been broken up for a while or they got back together or something like that. American Nightmare was playing inside and they have a huge following. And the guy from Somos was even like, you guys are crazy. Like one of the, top 5 greatest hardcore bands ever is inside playing and you guys are watching us. And, but I'm glad that I walked over there. That's the cool thing about music festival, I guess, is being able to walk around and listen to different bands. And I caught a little bit of their set, and I've been listening to that album that they put out last year, and it's fantastic. It's, that was one good takeaway from that. So overall it's fun. I don't know that I would really seek out to go to a music festival for like a weekend or for like a full day, or unless it was something like Shakin' Knees like you did.
Yeah. That I think it needs to have at least three bands. I think that's the sweet spot. If there's a lineup of at least 3 bands on a day pass, I think it's worth it. If it's in that $60 to $80 range, I always try to at least break it down in like what I'd be willing to pay for each show and like how much those tickets would be combined. Unfortunately, though, you and I talked about it earlier today. It seems like a lot more bands that I like or listen to are going the way of the music festival, unfortunately. And I don't know if I can justify that every time. Like Coheed's almost doing exclusively festivals now. There's a couple other bands that are like, oh wow, I'd really like to see them. Nope, they're just doing festivals. Like, damn it. Like,
yeah, like Mariachi El Bronx. Like every single thing they play, it seems to be a festival. And I think the reason Coheed's playing festivals right now is they're not necessarily on tour promoting anything, right?
That's true.
So what is it? Color Before
the Sun, yeah.
Yeah, Color Before the Sun doesn't come out until October. Is it October?
9th, yeah.
So they'll be touring, pretty heavily after that, I'm sure. And I think they're going to be back. I want to say I saw tour dates. I might be thinking of somebody else, but they'll be back in Atlanta. Inevitably, right? And that's a great thing about living here is that most bands are going to be coming here. But and then the other thing, a lot of our favorite bands, and I think it has to do with just the time frame. Some of the best albums or at least some of our favorite albums came out in 2005. So we're talking about a 10-year, everybody's doing the 10-year never ender type thing where they're playing the anniversary tour. Like we went and saw Darkest Hour back in July and we had no idea that they were going to, until we got there, oh shit, it's the 10-year Undoing Ruin tour. So they played everything from start to finish on that, which is fantastic. And that's what Return is going to be. And then they'll play one song from every other album. Right. And then, it's just kind of crazy. Everybody's doing that. I feel like Coheed kind of innovated that whole thing. Yeah.
I mean, God, I'm really hoping they do. I think Neverender for Good Apollo is due up, which I don't know how it's going to work.
That was last year, wasn't it?
They didn't do it. They did it for In Keeping Secrets. So, but Good Apollo was 10 as of last year, which was kind of weird that they didn't do that. So, I mean, with Color Before the Sun coming out this year, they'll tour that next year, and then maybe the year following they'll do Good Apollo. I know that album was like, this gets a little weird because I watched a Coheed documentary a couple weeks ago, but I guess that album was really tough on the band personally. Like, it was just kind of a weird time for everybody. That was when, I guess, Claudio and Chandra broke up, which led to him writing 10 Speed. And then that's when Josh and their bassist got into a big falling out. And so that's when both of them dropped out. And then it was pretty much just Claudio and Travis after Good Apollo. And they wrote
No World for Tomorrow.
No World for Tomorrow. Yeah, they pretty much wrote that just
because it's the same album, right? It's the same exact album.
But they wrote all of that, just the two of them basically, and then had to get a new drummer and bassist and all that. But yeah, I don't know how that would work out, them doing that tour, like what kind of emotions that would bring up for them to have to rehash all of that essentially.
Yeah, so, that's true.
Especially now that Josh is back in the band and all that. But that combined with timing, I think it's one of the top 5 best albums of all time for me, but I don't know. I mean, and I think it warrants doing it, but I don't know. I don't know if it'll work out with timing and all that.
Yeah, that's true. For me, I tend to think, well, I like No World for Tomorrow better than Good Apollo. And I'd probably pay like a good $50, $100 to go see them do a Neverender of No World for Tomorrow. Because whenever I listen to Coheed,
I would pay $50 or $100 to go see any set.
That's
especially if they do a Neverender set. I mean, their regular sets are phenomenal, but I mean, those Neverender sets are something special that they do, which is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I typically don't listen to live music outside of shows, but whenever I listen to Coheed, I tend to listen to the Neverender CDs instead of listening to the studio stuff because it's kind of like it's got more of that raw feel to it.
Well, especially with, I mean, and so many of their songs have gang vocals in them, and whenever you actually hear the crowd doing that, it's just and it's like I said, talking to you, I mean, that's kind of the disappointing thing with seeing. I mean, I don't think I could ever be disappointed seeing Coheed live, but seeing them in a festival, I think you miss out on so much of what makes them special, which being packed into the Tabernacle, and if you're on the floor and the entire crowd is moving as one body, like it's just crazy. And you lose a little bit of that with the festivals, you know, you don't have as intimate of a show, I feel like.
Yeah, that's true. And you and I grew up going to little bars to watch, one bar in specific to watch bands, New Brooklyn Tavern in Columbia. And, you know, those, I mean, it's a fucking sardine can in there. I mean, it's as big as like a dive bar. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, and you have that small stage, but so you're right. You do lose that but there are certain songs that I saw performed on Sunday that were still great in that aspect with the gang vocals and the chants and all that stuff. Like The Earth Will Shake by Thrice, that, you know, the whole, you know, the music park was fantastic for that. And then same with In Keeping Secrets. Whenever they played In Keeping Secrets, they started off with that. And, you know, well, there's so many of those Coheed songs with the whoa, whoa, whoa. So it's, you know, that was still, it was still there, but you're right. That whole intimate atmosphere, maybe just having even the 4 walls, kind of adds to that too. But yeah, being out in the open field, but it was packed. What sucks though is that typically one of the best parts of Coheed is that encore, and you don't get that with the 10 o'clock noise ordinance in downtown Atlanta outside. So
I still can't believe he didn't pull out the double neck.
No. Yeah.
I can't believe that. I mean, that's
unlike him. Yeah. It's very much.
But anyway, I think we're over on time. We went over a little bit on an hour. It's good to be back, man. Hopefully we can make it at least more regular. I know we've said that the past couple episodes, but I mean, I think things are settling down. I'm still taking my exams and stuff, but I think carving out an hour and a half once a week is definitely something I need to do and would like to do. So
Yeah, it's definitely much needed. I've missed it dearly. We have our conversations every day.
yeah, exactly.
We do. We talk every day, but you guys don't get to hear them. So you guys are gonna start hearing our daily conversations once a week again, hopefully. And hopefully you guys enjoy. Make sure that you guys follow us on Twitter, on probably not on Instagram. I don't post anything on there, but
I just post ramen and
shit. Buns. So fat kid cookbook. I'm really disappointed I didn't make it in town last night in time to partake in that, but got to taste.
I felt slightly guilty posting.
Yeah, you should have been. You should have felt guilty.
But to be fair, you would have had to, so I went to this place called Macan in Decatur, and it's a ramen and cocktail bar, and their happy hour is the way to go. Basically, it's half price appetizers and ramen, and on each different night they have different things. So Monday night's half priced whiskey cocktails. So I got an old fashioned, this pork belly with pickled onions. What's it called? Like soft bun or whatever. Sticky bun. Yeah.
Bao bun. Yeah.
Bao bun, and then a big ass bowl of spicy ramen for $15. And I was just in heaven.
I kind of hate you.
But yeah, I had to leave the office at 5:15 and get there. I was there by 6, and happy hours from 5 to 7. So it would have been nearly impossible for you to get there under normal circumstances, much less whenever you're out of town. So
what style ramen? Did they cook it in the broth, or was it sukemen where you have the cold noodles and put them into the broth?
They cooked it in the broth.
Okay.
Which was... It was okay. It was a little bit more al dente than I would have liked. But the other thing was I asked, so I got the spicy ramen, and I said they had the tonkatsu and the just a regular soy-based ramen. And I wanted to try just the stock for both of them. And the chef apparently wouldn't let me just try the broth because he said it needed to have everything else in it and all that for the actual flavor. I was like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, that's kind of BS. I think that's just people being lazy.
Yeah.
No, that's I'm totally jealous.
Definitely want to try to go back. Like I said, happy hours, if you're going to go, because normally the ramen is $14 for the bowl, which I didn't think it was that good. I would gladly pay $7 for it. There's a couple other places, though. There's a couple places in Midtown that I read some good things about. We'll have to go hit up. And I think there's a place in Smyrna that I looked up yesterday too. So we'll hit up some ramen places soon.
Oh yeah, or good. Have you ever had Moonnamyeon, the North Korean?
Yeah, the clear noodles or whatever?
No, the buckwheat noodles.
Yeah. I've had that. Yeah. That stick together that they put in the ice water.
Yeah, that people choke on and die eating. Yeah.
So good. So good.
It's a nice challenge.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess that'll be our little fat kid cookbook tidbit at the end. As always, I'm joined by Kevin. Kevin, where can they find you on Twitter?
As always, you can find me at _ARC1TECT.
It's good to hear that again. You can find me at my name at TIMHERB, and you guys find us either banterboys.podomatic.com is where you can find the podcast, or on iTunes, or on Stitcher, on I got to start posting on SoundCloud again. Just find us, listen to us, put a comment, be kind enough to put a review, whether you like it or hate it. Just let us know. We always enjoy your feedback, and we look forward to seeing you next time, which hopefully is next week.
Sounds good.